So Nuzlocks are like purely RNG, right? You have no control over the terrible encounters you get. You eventually just get crit and die. And you know what? There might actually be some truth to that. If you're terrible. The reality is, Nuzlocke offer a lot of skill expression in every decision along the way. And the very first and sometimes most important decision in your run is your starter selection. But which starters help you sweep through the game, and which starters should you never pick? I'm here with my 5,000 hours of Nuzlocke experience to help you make that very important first decision. Unless you're doing the thing where you just decide your starter based on your trainer ID, or you're doing a randomizer, or playing a ROM hack, or this video is pretty useless actually. Maybe subscribe and maybe soon they'll pop up a video that'll help you with your very specific rule set. Anyway, I'm PokemonChallenges. I'm probably the best Nuzlocker in the world, and this is the Nuzlocke starter Pokemon tier list. Let's cover some basics real quick. I'm basing these ratings on hardcore, so item lists and overlevel lists, Nuzlocks of vanilla mainline Pokemon games. Also, quick disclaimer, I have very little experience with Gen 8. My rating on the Sword and Shield starters is going to be very loose. With that all being said, let's start at the very bottom of the tier list with the F tier. And at the very bottom of the list is everyone's favorite dinosaur, Meganium. Whew, they really did this guy dirty. I think the first thing to understand is that pure grass types are just really not good. It's not a good typing. It has too many weaknesses, and too many of those are common weaknesses. Meganium in particular here also gets some really terrible offensive options, especially in earlier games. It's basically a tank support kind of Pokemon with a terrible defensive typing. Additionally, it's just also straight up weak to the first two gym leaders in the game. It's also slow as shit, and like all the light screens and other random support moves that it gets are usually not worth the tempo that you lose to set them up. It's simply not good in early, mid, or late game. But you know what else isn't good in any stage of development? Testicular cancer. That's right, 1 man every hour is diagnosed with testicular cancer. April is National Testicular Cancer Awareness Month, which is I wanted to take a second to talk to you guys about men's health. You know, if you're a loyal pChal viewer, you know that I love the sponsor for this video, Manscaped. I've been using their Lawnmower 4.0 for quite a while now. Really love that it's waterproof, can use it in the shower, it's got like a little LED light in the front. It's just a really nice trimmer, I really like it. And for April, they've partnered with the Testicular Cancer Society. This kind of stuff is really important and not really talked a lot about. Testicular cancer is something that can happen in young people a lot too. Getting yourself checked regularly is really important. The sooner you can catch this, just like any other kind of form of cancer, the better it is for you, and the more likely it is to not be that big of a deal. You can perform like routine self-checks at home. If you go to manscaped.com/TCS, you can learn all about how to check yourself for this kind of stuff. Again, it's the most common form of cancer in men between 15 and 35, so you know, it's kind of worth thinking about sometimes. Thanks to the Testicular Cancer Society for raising awareness for this kind of thing. It's really important. And as always, you can head on down the description to manscaped.com/PokemonChallenges to get 20% off of some men's grooming products as well. Thank you so much for Manscaped for sponsoring today's video. Let's get back into it. The other Pokemon joining its pure grass brother down in F tier is Serperior. Serperior has a pretty similar problem to Meganium. Pure grass, more like pure ass. Am I right, guys? Bad move pool, super replaceable with other grass types. Whatever gyms it does beat in Unova are better beaten by water Pokemon anyway. Just don't pick Snivy in Gen 5 on any merit, except that it does have the coolest personality out of any starter Pokemon. Let's move up to C tier. Greninja is actually such a sad case because it's really cool on paper. Fantastic design, extremely fast, delight to watch in Smash Bros, but what the hell is this moveset? This just gets nothing good. Dark types are normally great because it covers the common psychic and ghost types that you normally fight in like a lot of mid and late game situations, but Greninja is so frail and it just doesn't do well in the region that it's in. The other starters just do so much better in X and Y, and there's almost no point where Greninja actually gets to use its like pretty good offense and speed. Following in C tier is everyone's favorite mascot Pokemon, Charizard. Man, this thing is a disappointment. The additional flying typing does it no favors whatsoever in a region where there's a plenty of flying types for you to pick up. It's a pretty poor learn set, and apart from Erica, which also gets swept by like a Pidgeotto or any of the thousands of poison types in Kanto, it doesn't really help you with any major fights in the region. If this thing isn't on a first edition PSA 10 card, then probably don't pick it up. Again, I'm not really sure where to put the Sword and Shield starters as I don't have a lot of experience with them. Inteleon is probably somewhere here in the list. Water types, especially pure water types, mainly benefit from being a good defensive typing, so you want them to be more on the bulky side. So having a glass cannon water type like Inteleon doesn't really work most of the time. It's pretty similar to Greninja in that case. Next up is Incineroar, which is an incredible VGC Pokemon with all the support stuff that it gets, but because in a Nuzlocke you can't get Intimidate and you can't really utilize Parting Shot or anything like that, it doesn't really get to use its full potential as it does in VGC, or not at all because you're mostly fighting single battles anyway. It's just pretty slow, its typing doesn't do it any favors for pretty much any of the totems. It's just not that great. Rillaboom probably sits around here somewhere as well, because at least as a part to its other like pure grass type brothers, it's got a decent coverage, I guess. Topping off the pure grass types though is Sceptile here. Sceptile's quite a bit better in Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald than it would be in the remakes, because before Generation 3, every grass type move was special, including Leaf Blade, and Sceptile really wants a good special move, and it had that with Leaf Blade, and it didn't really have that in later generations, so it just lacks a good offensive main stab move later on. Rounding out C tier are the two bulky water types, Blastoise and Alligator, and they're both here for pretty similar reasons. Bulky water types are great, they really are, but there are so many options to replace these two, with even guaranteed encounters in your run. Blastoise is outclassed by Lapras or Vaporeon later in the game. Alligator can just be replaced with a Gyarados, so you're not really getting any value picking these up because you can get something that fulfills their role later on anyway. Let's move up to B tier though, with an interesting one in Chestnut. Fighting is a pretty great secondary typing, but most importantly, it's one of the very few actual good counters to Lysandre's Mega Gyarados in X and Y, which is otherwise incredibly scary for you. Turns out, once you pair a grass type with like a decent secondary typing, it actually becomes okay. Next up is Blaziken, which I was expecting to want to place higher, but the more I thought about it, I realized, I mean, firefighting is a fantastic offensive typing, but unfortunately Blaziken just doesn't get too many good moves to actually utilize that typing, and it's a little bit slow. I mean, in Ruby and Sapphire in the Elite Four, it's really good because it has 3 really good type matchups, especially in Oraz, where it also gets access to like good physical fire moves. But apart from that, it just doesn't come to the full potential of what a firefighting type could be doing. Following that in B tier, we have Samurott, who in concept is pretty similar to its Gen 1 and 2 counterparts, with a big difference that in Black and White, you don't actually get a guaranteed Gyarados or any other guaranteed bulky water at pretty much any point in the game. Bulky waters are just very hard to come by in Gen 5. This makes Samurott a pretty viable option, and it's great against Clay. Torterra is up next as the lowest ranked Gen 4 starter. Torterra's access to great grass moves, dark type coverage, and very early Earthquake gives it a fantastic matchup against lots of Sinnoh gyms. The only thing it's lacking is speed, which it makes up for with pretty good bulk. And topping off B tier, we have Typhlosion. Turns out copying Charizard's stats 1-for-1 and just taking away the flying typing just makes it better. Typhlosion is just the only good fire type that you get in the barren wasteland of encounters that is Johto. It's also got a great matchup against Bugsy, which is one of the harder gym leaders in the game. And it also does pretty well mid-game against Jasmine and Price. This is probably the best Gen 2 pick in my opinion. Let's get serious though, and move up to A tier. Ambor. My god. Gen 5 starter design is incredible. I love all of these. Ambor has damage and it has bulk, but it's lacking speed, but it can make up for that with Flame Charge, which it gets really, really early. It's just a menace both offensively and defensively against most of the gym leaders in Unova it has either a neutral or a good type matchup against. I love this Pokemon so much, and I think it's really underrated and probably the best Gen 5 starter. The next starter up is Decadui. Dude, it's pronounced Decidui, you know that, right? Decidui. Its name comes from deciduous and eye. You know, deciduous like trees, and then eye, like because it's, you know, it's an archer. And it's looking with its. You know, I never thought about it like that. That's actually a really good point. Yeah, it does make a lot more sense than Decadui, huh? I guess we should just base all of our Pokemon pronunciations on what the words come from, right? That's how the names are made, and that's just how you should pronounce them. That's the easiest way. You're right, but I guess I gotta go back and re-record the whole Blastoise thing I did, because I pronounced that name wrong. Wait, what do you mean? Well, you know, because it's like, it's pronounced Blastus, right? Why the hell would it be pronounced Blastus? Blast, and then tortoise, right? You don't say tortoise, it's tortoise. So it's gotta be Blastus. That doesn't, you can't, that's not, can't believe I kept calling it Charizard the entire time. It's obviously Charizard. Decadui has one thing that makes it great, and that's the ghost typing. Immunities are really, really good in Nuzlocke for ensuring safe switching and pivoting, and the ghost typing has 2 immunities. One of them is against normal, which is like the most common attacking type in the game. It has pretty good matchups against several of the totems, and it's a great counter to How's Alolan Raichu, which is pretty terrifying. Up next is the best Gen 6 starter, Delphox. It's not as fast as you would hope it to be, but it actually gets more outspeeds than you think. More importantly though, Fire Psychic is an incredible offensive type combo. There's pretty much nothing that resists it. This thing just comes out and one-shots things, left and right. It's great. Also, its pre-evolution is great furry bait if you're into that. Also, its pre-evolution is great furry bait if you're into that. I don't know, I can't deliver this properly. I say it so seriously, but there's no indication that I'm not being serious about it. I can just cut that line, it's so stupid. The best starter in Alola is Primarina, for pretty similar reasons as Delphox actually. It's just a great offensive type combo with water and fairy, but Primarina also has all the benefits of a bulky water type. It's just super solid and reliable. Let's look at the best Gen 1 starter though, Venusaur. It actually suffers from a lot of the same issues as Meganium, which we've ranked dead last here, but it's just in a much different game, which makes all the difference. It has so many good type matchups in Kanto. The reason Venusaur is placed so highly though is actually Misty. I think Misty is one of the hardest gym leaders in Gen 1, and no Pokemon does as well against her at that point as Ivysaur does. Her Starmie is a menace with any other team composition. Venusaur solos Lorelei, and let's be real, probably also Bruno. You can even teach the Sunny Day and Solar Beam in the late game to actually have like some offensive oomph. Coming in the top of A tier though is Empoleon, which is there because it's a steel type, and steel type is the best type in the game for nuzlocking. It just has so many resistances. Steelwater is an incredible typing. You can even pick up choice specs for this in Celestic Town to power up its Surf. The only downside really is that its pre-evolutions are pretty terrible. Okay, it's time for the cream of the crop now. S tier. Pokemon that are just in their own league and that transform the game when you play it with them. I'm pretty sure this is where Cinderace sits. Incredible speed, incredible offense, and access to bulk up in its learn set means this is probably utterly broken. Even without much experience in Sword and Shield, I can say that this is the best Gen 9 starter. Next up is an all-time classic though, Swampert. The great thing about Swampert is that it has exactly only one weakness, with grass. Except for exactly your rival fights, there is no boss fights in Hoenn that actually wield grass-type moves. It makes Watson completely free, Mudshot is a fantastic move to mitigate its speed-type weakness, and Swampert is just unkillable. It 1v1s like every Pokemon in the game. And don't even get me started on its Mega Evolution. And finally, the best starter in any Pokemon game, in my opinion, is Infernape. What a monster. This is everything Ambor and Blaziken dream of being every night. The raw power of Ambor, combined with the better type matchups against gym leaders and Elite Four members that Blaziken has. All that combined with a much better speed stat, and to top it all off, access to 2 100 accuracy, 120 base power physical moves, and Flare Blitz in close combat. Infernape is just in a league of its own. It breezes through Sinnoh, and there's simply no offensive Pokemon that matches it. Additionally though, Sinnoh is the region that is known for having like no other fire types. You can't replace Infernape. I think out of all the starters on this list, Infernape is probably the only one that you pretty much have to pick. And that's it. Here's the full list with the best of each generation highlighted. Tell me what you think I got wrong in the YouTube comments. I look forward to reading absolutely none of them. Shout out to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. And I suck at YouTube outros, so I'll see you guys next time.